Hello, my name is Donna, and my whole name is Donna Williams, and I'm going to talk a bit about autism. And one of the things that can happen to some people with autism is something called simultagnosia, and this is where you see the part and you lose the whole. So some people who have this, they will look at a face and they'll see the eyebrows lose awareness of what the eyes are, get the teeth, lose the mouth. They'll get the frames of the glasses but lose the face behind the glasses. They'll focus on the hat, lose the head. They'll get the earrings, lose the face. They'll process the fingers or the hand and lose the rest of the person. They might process that there's the person but lose the room. They might process that person and lose who they're with. And this can cause not just object blindness, trouble recognizing what an object is unless you see it being used, or maybe when you make a noise from it or you move it, but it can also cause context blindness, which can mean that you go up and start talking to somebody not seeing that they're actually talking to somebody else. Or it might mean that you don't use the cues of what you're seeing around that person to understand what it is that they're doing. It might mean that you, because you can only recognize things when they're in a certain place or when people are using them, it might mean that you always insist on things being put back into the place that helps you recognize what they are. It might mean that you have difficulty when other people move things out of the place where you know them. Or it might mean that you hold back and wait until other people are using everything so that you can understand what you're seeing. When you have problems with simultagnosia, one of the things that can happen is sports can be really hard because you might see the ball but not be able to process that here comes the ball, put your hands up. Or you might see the ball but not easily put together that that person caught it and they're throwing it to that person and what that means for waiting for when it comes to you. And so that's one of the things that can happen with the context blindness part of simultagnosia. You can find it really difficult to organize. So you will get this little thing or that little thing or that little thing, but not find it easy to think about all the different things that you need to get together to make something happen. And it can take a lot of years to practice making lists and working out how to gather things together. If you've grown up seeing this bit, that bit, this bit. One of the things that can also happen with simultagnosia is that when people are talking to you, you may not easily visualize what on earth they're talking about. And there's a myth that all people with autism think in pictures, but people who have grown up not seeing a whole cat, like maybe they got the cat's ears, they lose the head, they get the head, they lost the body, they got the head and the body but lose the legs, they got the tail, they've lost the rest of the cat. Well, how do those people come to visualize cat? I mean, they might be able to learn, here's a picture of a cat equals cat, and then they see the real one, and it doesn't all come together with a PEX card or a photo or something. And so that can make it really hard to learn language. It can be one of the reasons why when people are talking, you might get really fed up really quickly with listening because it just gives you a headache and feels really overwhelming. Not just because you can't easily put meaning to the language, but because you can't keep up and make sense of it. It doesn't mean anything. You can't see it. You can't, they're not showing you the experiences that go together with the language. So one of the things that simultagnosia can cause is a lot of problems with meaning deafness, which is different again. But simultagnosia can be one of the causes of things like meaning deafness. So not everybody who has meaning deafness will have simultagnosia. But if you have both, it makes you a very particular kind of meaning deaf person. And if you have simultagnosia and it's really difficult for you to make sense of the eyebrow and the eye and the face all together, then you're probably going to be face blind. And that means you won't be able to tell people apart very well. But one of the reasons that might happen is because you've never seen faces as a whole. So you can be face blind and have simultagnosia as the reason underneath, or you can just be face blind and not have simultagnosia. You can have trouble reading facial expression, body language, because you have simultagnosia. If you can't see a face as a whole, your brain can't make sense of it as a whole. If you see bit and put it all together. If you don't see the body as a whole, you get the hands, lose the arm, you got the jumper, lost the person, you've got the legs, lost the torso, you've got this arm, lost what's going on with this one. How do you learn body language? So you can have social emotional agnosia with or without simultagnosia. So what it means is that if you have simultagnosia, you can have a lot of difficulty with a lot of other things. And one of the problems is if you can see well, if your eyes work fine, people can't imagine that maybe your brain can't easily put meaning to what you see, meaning blindness. And people can't imagine that the reason why you're meaning blind is sometimes because when you look at a glass of water, you just see the sparkles and you lose that that's water. Or that you get the top of the glass, but you lose the rest of it, what it is. Or that you get that that's a glass of water and it's on the table, but you don't realize what it's sitting on, or whose glass of water it is, or why somebody might have put it there. So there's all kinds of degrees of simultagnosia. Some people have it really badly, and some people only have a little bit of it. And one of the problems is that it makes people look like they're not as clever as they are. So blind people can be as clever as anybody else, and meaning blind people can be just as clever as anybody else. And blind people can become better at what they hear and the things they touch. And people who are meaning blind can become much better at learning through their hands and learning through doing. And they can become much better at noticing some really small changes that other people might not notice. Because if you can't see the whole thing, what you become really good at is tuning into really small things. And some people with simultagnosia get really good at patterns because they can't rely on meaning. So they rely on the pattern, and they rely on the mood of something. Some people with simultagnosia might find going out into crowds or being social or being in a supermarket really hard, because when they go into a place that's got a lot of bright lights and is really busy, it can look much more bit. And so people with simultagnosia, they often will look away, and by looking away, they can see things more as a whole. So it's a special trick that some of them use to be able to make sense of the whole thing by not looking at it in a straight way, in a direct way. And some people with simultagnosia, when everything is bit, they'll squint, or they look through their fingers. And that helps them to cut out some of the information that's coming in. gives their brain a bit of a rest, helps their brain catch up. And some people with simultagnosia, they really like having low lighting, or they might have sunglasses or tinted lenses, and that can cut out some of the information that's coming in. And when they do that, their brain gets more time to keep up, and it can start to glue some of the things together that they're seeing. So if you have simultagnosia as part of your autism, as part of your autism fruit salad, then you might try sunglasses, or you might try some tinted lenses to see if it helps your brain keep up better with what you're seeing. If you have simultagnosia, then you might only be able to stay in really busy places for a shorter time than other people. It might make you really tired and give you a headache and make you too excited and nervous because everything is all in bits. So you might not last as long as other people. You might have to go and get some space on your own. But the other people might not understand that because they don't have the same problem. If you have simultagnosia, you might be really attached to certain little objects, because when you go places and everybody expects you to look at them and meet people and go and find new things, what if you can't recognize them? What if they're not in places that you are used to, and so they're just stuff, shiny surfaces, reflection, smooth things, rough things, things that make noises? What if every time you pick something up to explore it, everybody tells you off? Don't touch, look, don't touch. But you don't know what it is unless you pick it up. Unless you rub it, move it, make a noise out of it. You don't know what it is. And then it gets very easy to just not want to go to places because other people don't understand. And so one of the things that people with simultagnosia do, sometimes they take all their own little objects with them, the world that they do understand, the objects they are allowed to touch, the things that are familiar. And so when those people are in a social space and everything is all in bits, sometimes people with simultagnosia will get out a little car and just play with the wheels. Sometimes people with simultagnosia will get some paper and shred it and make it just fly in the air just to enjoy the movement. Because if when you look at things they don't have meaning, at least movement makes sense. And some people with simultagnosia, they like movement so much that when they spin things, they can focus and see it as a whole as long as it's spinning. And when they're dropping things, they can see the thing moving through space until it stops moving, and then everything seems in bits again. So simultagnosia can make sense to the other people who have simultagnosia. But when people have simultagnosia, the difficulty in simultaneously processing information, visual information, in processing information at the same time, this bit and that bit and this bit as a whole, the eyebrow, the eye, the nose, the glasses, the mouth, as a whole face. And when people have a problem with when they have simultagnosia, the people who don't have that can cause a lot of problems. So it's really important to understand why you're doing the things that you're doing and how to help people help you. So one of the things you can do if you have simultagnosia is you can tell people, can we turn off the really bright lights because I can't keep up with what I'm seeing? Can we put the lampshade on, please, and turn the overhead lights off because I can't keep up with what I'm seeing? I'm going to put my sunglasses on even though I'm inside because it'll help me keep up with what I'm seeing. I really like looking through coloured glass and coloured plastic, because when I look through colour, it helps me to keep up with what I'm seeing. Maybe you would say, I need to go to quieter places where there's not so much stuff, because I have trouble keeping up with what I'm seeing. You might want to say, I'm sorry I don't look at your face when you're talking to me, but because I see your face in bits, it makes it really hard for me to keep up with what you're saying. You might need to say, I'm not a control freak, but when you move things, I can't recognize what they are because I have trouble understanding what I'm saying. You might want to say to people, I'm not being rude. I didn't mean to push in. I didn't mean to ignore that you were talking to people. It's just, I can't keep up with what I'm seeing. And if people say, that's crazy, what are you talking about? You can say, I have meaning blindness. And they will say, what's meaning blindness? What, like there's a problem with your eyes? And you can say, no, the problem is with my brain and what my brain does with what my eyes are seeing. And people might say, well, you need to get glasses. But the kind of glasses that help people with simultagnosia are glasses that help the brain keep up with more of what they're seeing. And the way to keep up with more is to take out some of the clutter so that you get more time with the important stuff. And some of that clutter can be taken out using colour. So that's why tinted lenses are used by some people who have trouble keeping up with what they're seeing. So I hope that that's helped people who are living with simultagnosia. And one of the problems as well with simultagnosia is people saying, do I look nice? Because if you see that person in bits, how do you know if they look nice? How do you know if you look nice? How do you recognize other people? Maybe you'll end up dressing a little unusually. Maybe you'll dress like your own individual self and not like everybody else, because you've never really been able to see as a whole what everybody else is wearing. Maybe you will always seem to do things in your own way. And maybe that's not because you just want to be different. Maybe it's because you never saw things as a whole. You just saw this little bit and that little bit and this little bit and that pattern and this. And so when you decided to do things, you just had to work out, how do I do this? And it turned out to be your own very individual way. And that's one of the gifts of simultagnosia. Simultagnosia can make you a good learner through your hands. Simultagnosia can make you a very sensory person who really likes textures and movement, who likes interesting sounds or music. Simultagnosia can make you have to tune in to very different things to other people, to the really small details, or to the sound of somebody's voice, or to their style of very subtle movements, not body language, something different. And simultagnosia can make you a person with a very strong world of your own, because the outside world is so bombarding with bit. And the only way to relax is sometimes to close it out and to get on with your own little things. So those are some of the gifts of simultagnosia. It's a big word. Simult agnosia. The agnosia part means not knowing, and simult is like from simultaneous. So having trouble keeping up with all the different things that happen simultaneously. Keeping up with all the different things that happen at the same time. Okay, hope that's helpful. Bye.